Hello and welcome into the Northside Bound YouTube channel. My name is Greg Huss, and today I am ready to dig into a new prospect profile. Today we're digging into Kevin Alcantara, the Jaguar. If you guys want to go check out other prospect profiles, you can check it out by subscribing to the Northside Bound YouTube page. I've already profiled Pete Crow-Armstrong. You can go check that one out. That was fun. Today it's Kevin Alcantara. Like I said, we're with these prospect profiles digging into 5 different elements. So I'll bring up their player card, dig into Kevin Alcantara's season that was in 2023, and then follow that up by talking about his strengths, weaknesses, potential outcomes, and timeline. So let's go ahead and kick it right off and talk about his season in 2023 statistically. So overall, you can see the numbers are pretty solid across the board. So it started off in the first month of the year. Kevin Alcantara was doing not the best, right? He was pressing at the plate. He was chasing a lot of pitches. You see that swing strike rate there at 15.6%. That's a pretty high rate in terms of swinging and missing at the baseball. The first month of the season was really rough. So he was able to bounce back in a huge way, and it goes to show how good he was the rest of the year long, based on these overall numbers and how rough he was early on in the season. So very similar numbers in terms of his advanced stats there in 2023. A 114 bash is my metric, and that shows his overall offensive performance, taking into account his age, taking into account the ballpark that he played in and the league that he played in. Overall, pretty good. OPS plus also was good. WRC plus liked him at 125. And then both the K percentage plus and walk percentage plus. Those numbers are according to league average. Anything above 100 is better than league average, and then anything below is worse. Obviously, like to see him walk a little bit more, but the strikeout rate being right around league average is really impressive, because I know that when we get into weaknesses, something we'll talk about is that chase. So the fact that he was chasing a little bit too much and still not striking out all that much is really impressive. You see down below that he did get 21 plate appearances in at Double-A in the season, to end the campaign. And looked really strong in a very, very small sample size. But if you're looking at that high A South Bend and what he did there, to post an OPS above 800 is really strong. This OPS over the course of the year being at 810, in 2022 he had an OPS of 811. So very consistent in terms of his overall output. So with that, let's go ahead and dig into the strengths of Kevin Alcantara. Yeah, so Kevin is an all-around, what I describe as a five-tool player. Now, whether or not all 5 of those tools will continue to play as he climbs the ladder and once he reaches the major leagues, that's the big question here, right? But in terms of the 5 tools you're looking for, his ability to have a feel to hit, and he did that, right? You see a 284 batting average from Kevin Alcantara. You see him limiting the strikeouts to a certain degree. The hit tool is definitely there. The power is tool number 2, and as far as that goes, I think he has some of the best power in the entire organization, right? He's a big guy, 6'5", 6'6", long levers. He hits the ball extremely hard. If not for Owen Casey being in this organization, we'd be talking a whole lot more about the power that Kevin Alcantara displays at the plate. This year, I got to see him. It was when he was playing over at the Quad Cities, I think is where I got to see him. And it was during the time when he was injured for a little bit. And so it was before he went down to Arizona to like truly rehab that leg injury. But his deal was that he was still on the field, kind of working his way back a little bit, and he was taking batting practice. And during his time taking batting practice, he was basically just swinging with his arms. Like it was a lower body injury. He wasn't getting into his hips and his legs quite as much as you would typically expect a guy to. And as far as what he did with just arm swings, he was putting it over the berm in left field. Like he was putting together moonshot home runs, and not even really putting a whole lot of effort into doing it. The pop is very clearly there. Defensively, the defense in center field is very, very good. Again, like with Owen Casey and the power, if PCA wasn't in this organization and his defensive abilities in center field, we'd be talking a lot more about Kevin Alcantara and his defensive center field abilities, because he is terrific out there. Covers a ton of ground with long legs. I'll parlay this quickly into his speed, right? The speed is absolutely there. It takes him a little bit to get up to speed. You'll see only quote unquote only 15 stolen bases. When you're that tall and long, it's not as easy to get up to speed as quickly. So the stolen bases won't be there quite as much, but in terms of his outfield defense and center field, like he can cover a ton of ground on both line shots and fly balls in the corners, or not even in the corners, but in the gaps. I think that'll play really well into right field once he gets a little bit bigger and that speed isn't quite there as much. And that's the fifth tool, right? Is that arm that displays really well in right field. It's been great in center field. He definitely has the arm to play right, gun runners down at the plate at will. All five tools are absolutely there with Kevin Alcantara. And I'll throw, I think there's two other tools. One I'll display here as a strength, and one will be a weakness that aren't really your prototypical five tool players, but one extra tool is athleticism. I think the players that have greater athleticism have a much better ability to adjust at the plate as they climb the ladder, right? As they reach pitchers that are more difficult to deal with, or they have a problem with their swing that they did not have at the lower levels of the minors, or they just have to make adjustments. I think athleticism lends itself to adjustments a lot better. And Kevin Alcantara is one of the most athletic guys in the entire organization. So my seventh quote unquote tool here is more of a weakness. So we'll get into that now. Yeah, so I think that when you're talking tools, a lot of times you talk hit feel to hit is a main tool, but one that I often like to throw into the mix here is like that ability to be a disciplined hitter that is not swinging at pitches out of the zone, knowing when pitches are strikes and when they're balls. And I think that Kevin Alcantara doesn't quite have that feel quite yet. He chases sliders out of the zone a little bit too often, and we know that with those long levers at the plate, pitchers are going to a lot of times come in up and in on him with fastballs. And so if he struggles with right now, he's able to make contact on and make quality contact with fastballs in. But if those fastballs add a few ticks, if pitchers get a little bit better at locating in fastballs in on his hands, if that struggles as well as that ability to that inability to lay off of sliders out of the zone bearing away from him, that's going to be a real struggle. That's something to keep in mind, and that's really his big major weakness here is that ability to lay off sliders out of the zone. We talked about potential outcomes with PCA, and with him, it's a small window, right? PCA is already going to be a starting caliber center fielder, and then the ceiling isn't quite as there. So like the outcomes are a small range of outcomes for PCA. With Kevin Alcantara, the range of outcomes is a little wild, man. It's a little crazy. So he will start off the year. Obviously, we're getting a timeline a little bit, but in Double A next year, there's a chance that given his inability to hit sliders, making sure that everything doesn't quite come together at the upper levels of the minors, there's an off chance that he doesn't make it out of Double A. He's already on the 40-man roster. That he doesn't make it out of Double A. It's just a wide range of potential outcomes with Kevin Alcantara. On the other hand, the ceiling with Kevin Alcantara is that he could be a all-star caliber player year in and year out, flirting with some MVP caliber years, right? This is a potential outcome like a ceiling of peak Matt Kemp that I've described, but also like you don't really know what you're getting with Kevin Alcantara. It's a wide range of outcomes, especially for a guy that's already on the 40-man roster. You'll remember like I gave that Matt Kemp kind of designation for Brennan Davis back in the day. Now, Brennan Davis's situation is different where he dealt with injuries, but like it's important to remember that Matt Kemp like comp is just the peak outcome. If you can get peak Matt Kemp for however many years with Kevin Alcantara, you are absolutely ecstatic. So I guess my point here is just a crazy amount of different outcomes we could see with Kevin Alcantara, and next year is going to be a really important year for determining how that window of potential outcomes shrinks a little bit. I started going into timeline a little bit with Kevin Alcantara. He's already on the 40-man roster. He's already touched Double A Tennessee last year. He will likely start off the year in 2024 as the starting center fielder in Double A Tennessee next year. That's going to be important to see how he kind of gets off to a hot start. Does he struggle early on in the year like he did in South Bend in 2023? We'll have to see. But my thing with top prospects and guys that are already on the 40-man roster, Kevin Alcantara just happens to be both of those things. Once you reach Double A, there's no telling when he might be up. He could be up the very next day up in the major leagues. Triple A doesn't really mean a whole lot for these type of players like Kevin Alcantara. We saw it with Christopher Morel a couple of years back. We've seen it with Nico Horner. We could see it with a guy like Matt Shaw. We could see it with a guy like just really any top prospects that's already on the 40-man roster. So my guess is they probably take it a little slow with Kevin Alcantara, though. Like, if I'm betting on something, I'm saying he starts the year in Double A Tennessee, spends a majority of the year at that level before getting the bump up to Triple A Iowa to kind of end the year, with 2025 being okay. Is that timeline more realistic for Kevin Alcantara being an opening day outfielder for the Chicago Cubs? Is it kind of like what we see with PCA, where like he might just be sent back down to Iowa and that's okay, and then come up later in the year at the major league level in 2025? That's to be determined. But like I said, I'm saying this timeline. Who knows? We could see Kevin Alcantara very quickly if he tears up Double A Tennessee right out the gate. That could be really interesting to follow. So overall, I'm really excited to see what Kevin Alcantara does in the 2024 season. If you guys are looking for more prospect profiles, like I said, PCA is up on the Northside Bound YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe, like this video if you could, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Kevin Alcantara. I think that he's a very polarizing type of player. Super excited. I didn't even mention how he is one of the more exciting players to watch. PCA is that too, but Kevin Alcantara, when he runs around with the Jaguar claw as after he hits a home run, that's always so much fun. He's one of my favorite players to watch play the game of baseball in this organization. So let me know what you think about Kevin Alcantara. Can he be used as a trade piece? Should he be continued to be developed slowly? Should it be a quicker process with Kevin Alcantara? Let me know what you think. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you guys so much for always tuning into these videos, and we'll be back soon with some more prospect profiles. Thanks, guys.